Welcome to Big Blend Radio, where we celebrate variety and how it adds spice to quality of life. So, we have Music Talks with Joey Stuckey here on Big Blend Radio every fourth Sunday. But today it's about musical kisses, I suppose, right? It is National Kissing Day. June 22nd is National Kissing Day. So grab someone and kiss them, but ask permission if you don't know them. Or maybe even if you do know them, you still have to ask permission. What do you think, Joey? Do you just go around kissing people? How are you doing?
I don't anymore.
You can't. You've got a wife. She'll kick you if you kiss someone else.
Well, the truth of the matter is I'm a hugger, and I hug people kind of whether they like it or not. But they can always refuse me if they want. But my natural instinct, I don't think about it, is I hug because that's just the way my family always has been. But I have to admit, as a young single person, I kissed as much as I could.
I just went into that song. Oh my gosh, come on. I'm a midnight toker. Come on, what's the song?
It's The Joker by Steve Miller Band.
Yeah. I'm a kisser. I'm a hugger. I'm a midnight. I don't want to go and give the word there.
I actually had a really interesting experience performing that song. We were in a little club in a college town, and there wasn't really much in the college town to do but go out and hear live music and get drunk, basically. And so I was singing that song because I've always loved Steve Miller Band. It was just part of the set. So it's called The Joker. I was singing, one of my favorite lines is, "I really love your peaches, want to shake your tree." And when I sing that line, I just smile because I think it's funny. Infantile, perhaps, but funny. And this girl in the audience thought I was smiling at her. But as you know, and as many of the loyal listeners know, I'm blind. So I wasn't smiling at anybody. I was just singing. And when I got off stage, we played a couple more songs after we did that song. When I got off stage, she came up to me and was furious, just absolutely angry, just seething with drunken rage. And apparently she said, you started smiling at me and flirting with me, and then I started dancing for you, and you just blew me off and ignored me. And I was like, lady, I can't see. I didn't even know that you were there. She said, "Oh, yeah, sure, whatever." And one of my friends was like, "No, he really is blind. He didn't know." She's like, "Yeah, whatever." And so she was absolutely infuriated with me. So I did not kiss her.
I know, but isn't that funny? Well, it is a weird thing about, okay, well, let's just get deep, dark, and nasty now. Let's go. I mean, there's no way. When I proposed this idea to you, I thought, well, there's all these other things happening. And last year at this time, we did African-American music,
right?
Specifically for Georgia and Macon, Georgia. We talked about that because it is African-American Music Month. And as we talk now, Sly Stone passed away as we record this today, which is a sad thing.
Yeah.
And it's an icon. I mean, he's a legend.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
And it's funky. So there's kissing that could be funky. You could start dancing with someone in funky style music, right? And so when I think live music has sex appeal. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely.
And has a sexual energy, and blues does, jazz has it, funk has it. Funk definitely, but if you put those three in the same place, something's going to happen on the dance floor, and you may not know the person, and something happens on the dance floor. And then the next morning you wake up and say, "Did I do that?"
Yeah. So I don't know how many of our listeners will have read my bio, but I graduated high school when I was 14, and I didn't go to my prom because I was so young. My class was full of 18-year-olds, and I was a 14-year-old, so that wouldn't have worked out. But later, when I was 18, someone else invited me to their prom, and I decided that I definitely wanted to learn how to dance. So I went to take dance lessons before I got out there, because I can't see to copy anybody else. I can't, I don't want to just stand there and wiggle. I wanted to know what I was doing. But anyway, I became quite popular after I learned to dance, and I got all these girls inviting me to go out a lot to dance. And to your point, sometimes on the dance floor, weird things happen, because I was dancing with this one girl, and she leaned over and bit me on the shoulder.
What?
And I think she was trying to say she liked me. So anyway, but dancing dancing and music, they go together, and it's really fun to dance. I actually stayed with it for 2 or 3 years and competed in some competitions at Disney World.
Wow.
and all kind of stuff like that. And I really had a lot of fun. And and because, I'm a musician, music's my entire universe. And you add to that the dancing, you talk about chemistry and chemistry with your partner and all this kind of stuff. It's pretty amazing. And I have to confess, I will tell you with no shame whatsoever, my dance instructor was also a beautiful woman. And I have to admit that being blind, I had to put my hands on her hips and stuff to
Little bit
feel
of
how,
crash.
yeah, absolutely. And I have to admit, once or twice I pretended not to understand so I could feel her legs some more.
Oh, well, you got a license to drive.
But it's just fun. But dancing and music are great. And I think, I remember the first kiss that I had. I remember who it was. I don't remember the kiss, but I do remember, and not in like a particularly sexual way. I do remember the best kiss I ever had, which was on my first actual date with my wife. And at the time, I was in a wheelchair. It was our first real date. We had talked on the phone for 10 hours straight the 2 days before. And that was our first introduction to each other. And I tried to play it cool and I'm like, yeah, we should get together next week or so and go, do something. And she called me up the next day and said, next week's not going to work for me. How about tomorrow? And I was in a wheelchair, and I remember her sitting, beside me and just leaning over and giving me a kiss. But it was just a sweet kiss of affection. I don't know how to describe it. It was just very, very sweet. And I remember
Yeah.
I remember that very vividly. And also June 21st, since we're doing this show on the 22nd, June 21st will be our 22nd wedding anniversary. So
Oh, wow.
happy
That's
anniversary
amazing.
to Jennifer.
Well,
So
happy anniversary to you both. I mean, that's amazing. I
yeah.
mean, I have not gone past the 6 month line, okay, in relationships. Well, I have other things I'm doing in my life. It's just my
So
choice, but that's
yeah.
amazing.
Well, also too, I mean, before I met Jennifer, I will say that I had a lot of experience with dating, and sometimes I dated one girl for about a year, and never even occurred to me to ask her to marry me or anything. I mean, it just wasn't that kind of thing. But what I will say is that it took me a long time to kind of figure out what I would accept and what I wouldn't accept. And you know, when you first meet somebody, they always say you're not meeting them, you're meeting their representative. And so when you first meet someone, it takes a couple months to get to know somebody
Yeah.
and see through the illusion.
And you know what really bugs me is like people try to say that they're into something of the other person when they're
Yeah,
not.
yeah,
And that drives me bonkers because it's like, don't tell me that you're into the blues when you're not. I'm going to call you out real fast. Just
and
say,
I don't
I
know why you
don't
do
know
that.
anything about it or I don't like it. That's fine too. Doesn't
Sure.
mean I'm not going to like you. I'm going to, can we try and have an interest on it, on each other's dislikes or not? And maybe find a common ground. But that's the thing about dating. They do this thing where, like, I'm going to pretend to like what you
Yeah,
like and do
and
one
the
thing
good
they
kisses
know
aren't
about
worth
the
it.
blues. Like, all they know is BB King will be the only thing people know about the blues after
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And
Well,
it drives
and
me
he's
nuts.
certainly the BB King is one of the greats.
I know.
The interesting thing, like with my wife and I mean, I listen to a lot more music than she does, and I read a lot more books than she does. But she has developed my passion for British comedies, and she has developed my passion for Star Trek, and Doctor Who. I mean, and I finally, and I consider this a major lifelong achievement. I consider this absolutely one of the best things I've ever done. I've finally got her to like Monty Python.
Yeah, you know what? But it takes time. So, like, certain things, like Seinfeld for the first time meant nothing to me
Yeah,
because it was about nothing. But then one day I got it, and then I was like,
yeah.
this is funny as heck.
I feel the
English
same way.
comedy takes time to grow on people. They have to
It
get in the
does.
groove of it because it is a bunch of nothing. It's about all the little moments. It's not nothing, but it's about a bunch of little. I think Seinfeld is British comedy in America
I
because
agree
it
with you
was,
because when I first saw Seinfeld, I was like, okay, why is this such a big deal? But then I was sick one day, like with a cold or something, like a flu. And Seinfeld was on TBS or something, and they just played episode after episode after episode. And after I watched two or three of them, because I felt too sick to change the channel, I was like, this is really good.
yeah. Well, that's how I found out about SNL. So SNL, I wasn't able to watch it in South Africa. And when I had surgery on my arm, I broke my arm and they put a rod in my arm. And I was literally on my back for a month and not, it was a mess. And they gave me Vicodin and Nancy took it away and said, just have a glass of wine, get over it. Because it was looping me out. I went from morphine to, in the hospital to Vicodin, and Nancy's like, you don't need any of that stuff. Just have a glass of wine. And I was watching SNL and I was in tears or in hysterics. It was one of the two, but that's exactly it. And it is funny, but let's talk about kissing moments, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because kissing comes into movies. Where I know we're going to talk music, but let me tell you, there is no kissing scene in a movie or a TV show, even if it's comical, without music in the background to make it happen. Because if you just watch people kiss without music, like in the street or whatever, it's kind of gross, actually, without the musical background. So I'm just going to say, you need the music setting.
Two thoughts about that. The first one is kissing, like sex scenes or kissing scenes, and also car chases as a blind man are very boring to me.
Well, back in the day, they used to do fireworks in the background. Then you don't have the music, and then, you can tell by music. That's what Nancy and I always watch. Like, we'll watch something, I go, here goes the music, you know what's happening. And like a murder thing or whatever. Oh, here we go.
But I will say to you that I'm okay with kissing someone without music in real life. Because,
and you can do it with the light on because
sure can. and or off. Either way is fine. Yeah, it doesn't matter to me.
Well, listen, a lot of women want the light off on anything. They're like, taking my clothes off, I want the light off.
Yeah, that's fine with me. Yeah. That's why that's one of my many good selling points.
Are we going there? Oh boy. Okay, but there are some songs. So there's songs about kissing.
Yeah.
But there are songs that have absolutely nothing to do with kissing, but are just sexy, romantic, good
absolutely
songs.
Absolutely.
Wicked Game.
Oh yeah.
Chris Isaak. That is a good kissing song. But then if I get into the blues, because that gets a little dirty. I don't know. I want a little dirt in there. Do you remember your very first kiss, Joey? The very first one.
I remember who it was with, but I don't remember the kiss itself.
I remember my first one, and I literally fell backwards in shock. And not out of, he kissed me, yay.
Yeah.
Like in the old movies and books and stuff.
You didn't swoon.
No. I grossed out because he tried to stick his tongue in my mouth, and I went, oh, there's like a fish in my mouth or something.
Yeah.
Like, what is that?
It has to be done very carefully with some precision.
That was, as kids, it was like, then everybody in high school was like, now, did you kiss or did you kiss? Like, what was, there was the levels of kissing.
Yeah.
And at that point, I almost vomited. Yeah. And so I was like, I'm not ever kissing again. And then that went away.
It is true. I mean, that's the same thing that I was kind of saying. There are all kinds of different kisses. There's the kiss of friendship. I mean, you can kiss somebody on the cheek, and that means a lot. It's a wonderful way of showing affection. I tend not to kiss on the cheek, as I say, I'm more of a hugger. But I do think in Europe we do a lot of kissing on cheeks because that's just how it's done. And they do that a lot, especially some of my friends that are French and Italian and stuff like that. But I it's interesting. My very first romance, I have very little memory of any details, even though I was completely devastated and heartbroken when it ended, and wrote a couple of songs about it.
It was the end of the world.
But looking back, I'm like, man, what was I so upset about? That was a nothing burger.
I had friends that would, in high school dances, like, no, you need to be with this person and we're going to trade partners. So you be.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, I'm not, I just, no. And then it's just this whole thing. There's a pressure on the woman of what's going to happen. And guys too are like, did you do it? Did you not? And like, I think there's a level of, well, now it's a little different as we age, right? I don't know, but there's the talk of it and you just don't want to, and even when it's the first time of the real naughty, everybody wants to know, did you do it? And, and all the girls talk and, and by the time, and when you haven't done anything and you hear all your girlfriends talk and you have to discern, are they completely lying to just say they did it? You have to sit and listen and go, did you really do that? And then, oh, I saw you do that. And then I go, like, you really did that. Because that tongue experience grossed me out. I have to tell you for a little bit because I was just like, what was that? You didn't ask permission. That is
Yeah.
disgusting. So we got to think about how we've evolved or devolved, as each person has their own opinion, how we've changed, let's put it that way, in society over the years. Back in the day, we had to have, you go to a high school dance, you have to have someone, they had rulers to separate you from the guy if you were a girl. My gosh, and if you were two girls and two guys, no, no, no. That is unacceptable and not even heard of, you know.
Yeah, I avoided a lot of that because of my extreme age difference in high school.
Yeah, me too. You had an age difference?
Yeah, so I was 14, everybody else was 18.
Okay.
That was a pretty big difference.
I was young too. So I graduated at early 17 when everyone was at the end of their 18. So you and I are kind of similar in that.
Yeah,
I was like a year or two ahead depending on where I was. I was always the young person and the elder, at that age, it was a big deal. Now to me it doesn't matter. But
yeah. Well, and then I was in college when I was 16, so
dang.
I had a group of friends that I ran around with, but I didn't really start dating until I was about 18, and my wife and I didn't get married until we were in our late 20s, and I think that was really wonderful
Oh,
because
that's smart.
I think that's really great. That's just how it worked out. But it I think that's great because I was able to make my mistakes. I was able to learn. I was able to grow. I was able to have a pretty good idea who I was and what I wanted out of life. Jennifer was the same way. And so it worked out really, really well. And now that's not to say you can't get married young, because my parents got married when my mom was 17 and my dad was 21. They've been married for like 65 years. It's not to say that can't work out. But anyway, I think it is. Our society is getting a little bit older when they get married, and I think that's probably a good thing.
I really do, we're changing a lot. Society's changing. We're not having as many kids either. And
I was just to say, you mentioned the, all the great funk stuff at the beginning of the broadcast. Boy, that's one of the reasons I picked for our we always put playlists together for these shows. But that's why I picked Prince's Kiss. I mean, that's a great.
it was the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, it's a great funky tune. And
It's naughty.
I also put in "Lips Like Sugar" by Echo and the Bunnymen. So that's not, that's a good kiss. You want to kiss someone that's got lips like sugar.
Okay. Well, what about "Then He Kissed Me" by the Crystals?
Oh, right.
I put that in there. And everyone, the link is in the episode notes for the Spotify music playlist.
I want to give you guys a tip, by the way. I was in college. I was in the music department, and I made it a point to date horn players from the band because I figured they had good lips. And I was not wrong. So there's a tip for you. If you're looking for someone to kiss after this show, if you've gotten swept up, horn players, that's what you want to do.
Because they also have the breath and
yeah.
So I'm going to go on a whole other tangent on that, but I'm going to stop myself. But yes, horn players are really good. And Louis Armstrong, I'm going to go there because Louis Armstrong did "A Kiss to Build a Dream On."
That's a great.
Is that not that's a forgotten song in a way?
Yeah, that's great. Did you have that in the playlist?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I had to put it there. And then, okay, I know we've got all these beautiful romantic kiss songs, and kissing songs, and songs that make you want to kiss. But then there are, what about butt kissers? The kisser-uppers in corporate America and people that, people that just kiss my butt, right?
Yeah.
So there's the Violent Femmes, "Kiss Off." So.
Absolutely. Do you know that's one of the earliest songs that I learned to play on guitar?
Me too. No way.
And I went to, when I was 18, actually it may have been 17, I went to an arts camp and I was just really starting to learn my instrument. And I found the guitar. So I was just learning how to play the guitar, and I found that the guitar was a great magnet for bringing people to you, which was handy because I can't see to walk up to people and introduce myself. I don't have that ability. So bringing someone to me where they introduce themselves to me, that's much better if you have a mobility issue. So, but yeah, we played a lot of Violent Femmes, and that was very popular with all the girls. And then at that same time, again, was really popular and all this kind of stuff. So it was kind of fun. But yeah, that was one of the earliest moments of playing guitar, I remember.
I was just thinking it was Blister in the Sun that I did.
I know you were thinking that, but that's okay.
That dun, 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 dun. Well,
Yeah.
because it made your fingers work.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a bass/guitar riff. You could do both. But okay, so speaking of kiss my butt kind of thing, I do have good news to report.
I'm scared.
You should be. You should be. So
right.
We talked about this on a podcast a few years ago, or maybe a year ago. And I know everyone, Stuckey's is a familiar name as roadside, go to the store, get some Stuckey's, country goodness, deliciousness. And then we talk about road tripping, and that's part of what we do as a Big Blend radio company and road trip travel full-time, Nancy and I. And we were talking about all this on a show once, and I mentioned to you that there is a place called Uranus Fudge Factory.
Yes, you did. You mentioned that to me. Yes.
I want you to know we did it.
You finally went.
We went to Uranus.
I thought I sensed something different.
Did you feel better?
Yeah.
I just wanted to know.
Yeah.
And then some friends emailed and said, "Did you taste the fudge?" And I'm like, I'm not going to tell.
A lady doesn't. That's right.
What happens in Uranus stays in Uranus.
It's like,
but we did go. Everyone in Missouri, this is kind of an iconic kind of Route 66 style, and it is a part of Route 66.
Did you buy any souvenirs?
No, actually, our time was so short. I ran around the parking lot. I hate to say it, but they had a Uranus jail, and you go baby rattlers in a thing, and then you go look in this little container, and it's a bunch of rattlers that you would use on a human baby, not rattlesnakes. Because I was going to go, what are you doing with snakes? Like, animal person. I'm like, what are you doing? It was fun. They had dinosaur stuff and really retro things and a double-decker bus, Joey. We love a double-decker bus from England.
Oh, absolutely. I got a stegosaurus for my birthday was about a month ago. And not even a full month, but my birthday was a little while back. And I got a stegosaurus, a stuffed animal stegosaurus. So when you talk about dinosaurs, that made me think.
Well, if you're going to go to Uranus, you should get a stegosaurus.
I will, depending on well, never mind.
I know. This is going downhill, but we're talking dinosaurs, of course.
I like dinosaurs.
Apparently, we're supposed to say Uranus.
Yeah, I know.
Are we?
But that
really?
takes but that takes all the fun out of it.
Yeah. But anyway, we did go there, and I thought this is
that's
something
been a goal of yours for quite some time. So I'm glad you did it.
Yeah. So I want to kind of change up the playlist.
Okay.
So there's a whole thing about like take this shove and shove it,
Yeah.
Songs like that. Because there's also I'm going to have to look this up on some of the songs, but Queen had a song about a ship, and I don't want to pronounce it wrong, but of course I will. Khashoggi's ship. And he does basically tell people how to, take care of, kiss my butt.
Yeah, yeah.
The song. And I love that song. It is one of the later Queen songs on the album The Miracle. And I think that was one of the last albums they put out before he passed away. 1989, Queen The Miracle was one of the, I think if not it was inspired by millionaires Adnan Khashoggi's yacht, one of the largest privately owned boats, later owned by the Sultan of 2015 American politics. Oops, Donald Trump. I didn't know this. Sorry, I'm just reading off a website. But it was about this big extravagant yacht, and it was about, actually go listen to the album, The Miracle, and it's all about peace on earth and end to war, and it's beautiful. And it took me a while to get into The Miracle because it was more pop and it was still Queen, but it was a little bit more produced, but now I get it. He was dying.
Well, yeah. And the late 80s, there was a different aesthetic as well.
Yeah, but this is the end. And then you got to think 91, 92, we started getting into grunge. It was at that pivotal part.
Yeah.
And he was, I think he knew he was dying. And I think he was seeing what was going on in the world and had that, I'm saying it now. I mean, sing it, write it, perform it now. I mean, even Bohemian Rhapsody, I think he knew that even. But this was a little bit different. Bohemian Rhapsody has a depth of sound that this album did not have, to me. But at the same time, I don't know, go listen to it. It's a very interesting album. Maybe sound changed?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The late 80s had a different sound aesthetic.
The sound, okay, the actual how it worked. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the older version.
I'll have to check it out. I don't think I may have heard it at some point, but it's not ringing any bells. So I'll have to go back and re-listen.
Yeah, The Miracle, I think it's going to be the last album-ish. It was a great album, though, and it took me a while, but yeah, I think about Freddie Mercury all the time, about how innovative he was. And I don't know, I always think, people talk about Benson Boone like being him, and he's not. He's
Yeah. Big fan.
talents of him.
Oh yeah,
I'm a
very
big
big
fan,
Yeah, big fan.
but
There's only one Freddie Mercury. I mean, that's just just like there's only
yeah,
one Johnny Cash. I mean, there's only one Adele. I mean, and we don't
only
need
one Janice.
anybody else to be them. We need people to be who they are. That's my
Okay.
biggest thing as a producer is I try to always never try to make the artist into something they're not, and never try to make them into a clone of somebody else. You can be influenced by somebody else, you can be inspired by somebody else, but I always try to bring the soul of whoever I'm working with out, and I think that's the sign of a good producer, because I've got some acquaintances that try to make everybody sound like Adele or try to make everybody sound like
Oh
somebody else,
God.
and it's sad because we don't need that. We got him. And we don't have Freddie anymore, but
Exactly.
we have his body of work. Anyway,
Exactly. But
did not mean to sidetrack.
we can take, no, I think this is a perfect segment here. We can take a song and cover it. When you cover a song, you either have to cover a song as close to what it was for a specific reason or function. Like if you're playing at the Kennedy Awards and you played Whipping Post in front of the Allman Brothers, whoever's left, like
Yeah,
I certainly would want Derek Trucks and Warnanes on my side with me if I did that.
yeah.
And Susan Tedeschi, can you just all do it instead of me? But I would want to do it though. If you were to do that, I mean, you would either have to go 100% as a cover and play it according to, you can't miss a note. You have to do exactly what they did and just do it as an homage, right? Or go your version, which I always think would be better unless
Yeah.
add it to your version. And as an artist, I think they want to hear what people do with their song.
They do, and the only time you want to play it just like the album is if you're in a tribute band and you go through the trouble of dressing like them and having your guitars painted like them, and you're trying to bring the experience of that band. That's a little different. If you're a Beatles tribute band or Led
I have a
Zeppelin
respect for that
band.
too, because they're carrying a torch.
Yeah, so I mean that's a whole. In that instance, you want it to be as much like the album as you can possibly get it. But I have never. I will say that while I respect the amount of time and artistry it takes to do that, I've never wanted to do that, and I've never wanted to see a tribute band, because I'd rather, if I want to see Led Zeppelin, I'll go see Led Zeppelin, even though Led Zeppelin's not playing anymore. Although actually they're coming out with a new album and playing a tour. Side note. But if I want to see the Beatles, I'll go see Paul McCartney. Because I can't see the Beatles, obviously.
Isn't Paul McCartney and Ringo going to tour now too?
Yeah, they've been touring.
Yeah, I agree with you on this. Well, then I'm going to go back to my cover thing, because Pearl Jam, Eddie Vedder did a cover of Last Kiss, which is a cover of Wayne Cochran's song, and it's about love and loss. I mean,
Yeah.
Lost his girl, and
I've heard that. It's really good.
I think he did an extraordinary simple talking
Very
about
simple.
Kiss.
Yeah, absolutely.
Keep it simple, silly, or keep it simple, stupid, if you want to call someone stupid. Keep it simple. But I think that goes into music, is when you overproduce or you overdo it with so many. So Kiss, I'm just going to go. I think what he did with that song, he made it very tender, straight up, honest, heartfelt.
Yeah, it was right.
When you keep things simple, keep it simple, silly, you are allowing your soul to sing. And I think he did that.
He did a really good job with that. I'd actually forgotten that he'd done that till you mentioned it, but that's a good one.
Well,
definitely to put that on the playlist.
It is on there. It's gotta be. And then, you brought like Kiss from Prince, of course, but then you brought I Kissed a Girl from Katy Perry. So that freaked people out at one time.
Yeah.
Isn't that great when it freaks people? I think that's fantastic when music freaks people out.
I remember sitting at a cafe in St. Augustine, Florida, when that song just dropped, and the people next to me were talking about it, and they're like, "Oh my God, have you heard this song? It's it was so scandalous," and it was hilarious to listen to it. to listen to them conversate about this song.
Well, then, then you see also like Madonna kissing girls. Like I can't remember who kissed who. And it's like, so what? Do whatever you want to do. But
Yeah, who
it was
cares?
like this. Well, you need the extreme for the balance to set in. Yeah, you can't have extreme full on. You have to have an extreme for people to get to settle, like, well, I can handle this part, right?
Yeah,
And so like in a set list, you can't go all hard all the time.
right.
You have to bring something in for somebody on the side that may just want, like, okay, can I just have a ballad right now? It's that balance that comes in.
I always say 2 fast songs and a slow song is kind of how I build my set.
It's just about the human psyche.
Yeah.
I was watching something. Gosh, I
Tom
don't
and
know. It
Jerry.
was a podcast. No, it was a podcast. So while we were in a tornado closet, I was
Oh,
like, fine. By the way, I recommend Julia Dreyfus and Bonnie Raitt's podcast interview together. That I highly recommend people listen to that. But it was, oh my gosh, it was a writer, producer, and I cannot remember either person. And I don't think I even want to, because I did actually click it off after a while. But the guy was talking about how people go in cycles of 7 minutes, and then I thought, well, this is a prime number. And I thought about it even in how we produce podcasts and how long will people listen to what? And I'm thinking about how radio stations, like, oh no, only 2 minutes at one point, and then we're going to bring in the commercials. But then by the time they were done at the front and end, it's 3 minutes. And I was like, oh God, I don't like what he's saying, so I can't go against him. I hate that kind of commercialism, but it's actually kind of true about how long will a brain handle a certain period of time to soak stuff in. And so scenes in a movie can't be longer than a certain point because you're going to lose it.
Yeah, you got to have pacing. That's right. Although I will say I have kissed for longer than 7 minutes.
Especially as kids, like once you discover the art of kissing, now you're into perfecting it. I do want to say that you put on your list Kiss from a Rose by Seal.
Yeah.
And I remember how that song blew up. And at that time, Nancy and I were working in the music world, teaching organ and music. And my boss, Stefan, toured 22 countries doing prog rock as a keyboardist. And he was insane. You could blindfold him and he'll play every Yes song to the key, like to the everything, right? He was insanely cool. He went to North Africa playing this stuff. He was amazing. And he was also a huge Monty Python. And as I was moving from one area to the next place where I was going to teach all this, I stayed with him and his wife. And it was a insane, hysterical, amazing time because he had his electric piano. And then everything we were doing was Monty Python. And yes, it was Monty Python and yes, every night. And it was fun. But
that sounds like a pretty good time.
It was really good. And there's other things to say, but I won't say it on the show. But Kiss from a Rose, he just went, listen to this song. You have to listen to this song. And I was like, it's kind of poppy. And, to me, I'm more blues, right, than him. Right. But I re-listened to it and I was like, you know what? That was a well thought out, damn good song. And it moved people everywhere. It has the apex. Did he go by, when you write a song, do you have to follow the rules? Like it felt like he put the rules in there,
Yeah.
I don't mean this negatively. I'm not saying I'm not being negative.
It was a well-crafted song. It was very carefully crafted. It wasn't, it wasn't total inspiration. There was a lot of thought and careful crafting that went into it. Or at least that's how it seems from the outside. And so, yeah, I think it's genius. It has just this beautiful sort of, quality to it that's really remarkable. I think it's a killer song. And a lot of people think that he's saying "kiss on a rose from a grave," but he's actually saying "on the gray." So that's a common misconception. And I know that because I saw an interview with him where he said that.
And if you go to a karaoke bar, that's what they're singing.
Oh, is it?
Even if the words are in front of them, yes.
I am not a karaoke fan. My friends made me do it one night, and it was just, as a professional musician, it's torture.
No, that's hell. Because you're used to feeling an actual vibe and not a recording. I don't understand how, and I have huge, huge respect, everyone. Please. When people can, the one-stop shop thing where they can create the beat and then lay down the tracks and then sing to them. I think that's a whole other world that I respect, but I cannot do. I want like it's like playing to a metronome. I'm not one of those people. I want something to go haphazard a little bit. That's just me. Maybe it's
Yeah.
the bluesy thing, right?
Yeah.
Where that's part of the character and the accenting to me is to not be metronomically 100% correct. Doesn't mean, and drummers know how to do that. The best drummers. God, we were listening. I can't remember what song we were listening to the other day, and I went, "Oh my gosh, I haven't heard this forever." It was like an early '90s song, maybe from Weezer. I said
Oh,
Weezer, didn't
yeah, I
I?
was gonna say I don't know that. Okay, yeah, maybe Weezer. They're great. Yeah.
Oh well, whatever. We're talking about kissing. I might as well go to Wiener. But and I remember I was telling him, I'm like, listen to the drum rolls and how, but knowing when to. It's not being on metronomes TikTok. Oh, I hate that word too. The ticking thing. It's about understanding, letting something drop and sag and come back and you can still do it in time, but like there's I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know. It just feels very closed in to me and I know how to stay on time, but like that feels very constricting to me is my point.
It takes a long time to learn to play with a click track and still have soul. It takes a long time.
But it's important to do, I think.
It's a really it's an acquired skill set. I am anti-click for live performances. There are a lot of people that use a click in the live performance, and the reason they do is not because the musicians don't know how to keep time, but because they have video and fireworks and all these different things programmed in to happen at certain times, and they have to happen at the exact same time every night. And so that's part of the show. So when you have this big arena style show, a lot of times there's click tracks live. I don't like that idea. I like the live concert. If you go see me 2 nights in a row, you're going to have there's a lot of similarities, and we have a framework in which we work, but you're going to see some different stuff because I may be inspired one night to play a really long guitar solo. The next night, maybe I only play half as long, and of course I'll play something different. And I may decide to add something, and I have cues that I give my band that lets them know, hey, I'm getting ready to add something, or maybe sometimes I just say one more time, or let's hit it again, or something like that, and you got to be paying attention. So I'm really anti-click, for myself anyway, for live shows, but in the studio it can be handy. I'm one of those guys that can lay down all the instruments, like program it, and then what I usually do is I usually bring in live players to replace my tracks and to give it that live feel so that it feels like humans making music. Because at the end of the day, you definitely want humans to make music. I will say, like, there's that great song, Charlie Puth has a great pop song, and I think it's called Light Switch. And there's a sound of a light switch clicking off, and all the music stops, and you hear this click, and then everything starts back up again. And man, that has to be done with absolute precision, or it will sound terrible. So those guys are definitely working to a click. I mean, because they don't have a choice. But anyway, yeah, I love it all. I think it all has its place. I've done it all. I've played with a click, without a click. I've played where I played all the instruments. I played where I had a full band. And so I love there's a different season for each one of those techniques.
I agree. I mean, it's just, I'm in awe when people can do that and still be soulful. I'm like, damn.
Yeah, that's tricky.
That is like insane talent to me.
It's
when
super.
You can do that.
Yeah, you play, and what you're doing is you're playing around the click. So you can creatively get off the click and then be able to get right back on. That's a real skill that you have to develop over time.
I would encourage people to look up David Ryan Orr, ORR, from Arizona, and his stuff is amazing. And then he has a band where he goes full throttle without all that. But just because he understands all the different styles and he does what he needs to do. And he goes, well, this is what that has to be. And I think musicians have had to move according to what society will let them to do, which sounds terrible, but I think it's true. Like, you want a gig? Well, you're going to have to be in this coffee shop. No, you can't have more than one person unless they're playing a damn harp, no, get against a harp, you need to be here and you need to do this. And kind of like, oh yes, we want music and ambiance, but shut up, and don't bring more people in. And by the way, we're not going to pay you that much. Here's your pastry and your coffee.
Yeah.
And so it's really important. And I think in these times now that we look at the arts, when we talk about kissing, I'm going to bring it back to, segue, getting us back on track. And when you think about the first kiss with your loved one, your husband, your wife, your spouse, however you want to call it, that kiss, or someone you loved, right, that you kissed and maybe has passed, that song that you shared, maybe the first dance, that song came from someone who crafted it, spent sweat equity, I call, creating it, recording it, maybe on their own dime, usually, then had to go share it out to the populace who says, no, we only want to hear Freebird. Right? Am I getting this right, Joey?
Yeah.
And then you have to push that song, and sometimes it's an instant take, sometimes it's not. Everybody has a different story, but music takes time, and the creators just keep doing it. Maybe they have to get a job to be able to fund doing this passion. I know what it's like to be on a passion project because that's all we are, is that. Music is that too. And so right now, as we look at what's going on in the world of the arts, the music, education, I'm very fearful for the instruction going away. That's just me personally. I'm not trying to be on a platform. But when you go back and you think about those songs, how do we fund that to keep going for the next generation and the generation now? And to maybe have that second song in your lover's repertoire. I just want people to think about that. I'm not trying to be on my soapbox, Joey, but I kind of feel we have to always remind people a little bit.
It's interesting because what for people that aren't Taylor Swift, and I'm a big fan of hers, by the way. A lot of people aren't, but I'm a big fan.
Look, she's touring with Bruce Springsteen now. I think it's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, but she's fantastic. I mean, I really like her from so many different levels. She's a really smart businesswoman. She's a great artist. She treats her fans right. She's got some good records. But anyway, we're not all that, and we all have different things. So for art that's not Taylor Swift or not, at the top of the popular charts, we have to find other ways of being paid a reasonable wage. And I think what's going to happen is we're going to start having patrons again. And I think arts patrons are really important because I've recently decided that, I'm not going to play for the privilege of working for a ridiculous wage. And I went and did a little house concert in a small town near my hometown and made, a really good wage, sold a lot of merch, and people came not to drink, not to party, not to do anything, but to actually listen to what I had to say and what I wanted to sing about. And they were thrilled with it. They had a really great time. We took pictures, we signed autographs, we did all the things that we do, but they came specifically to hear whatever I wanted to play and whatever I wanted to say. And that's really the dream audience, where if you're playing at a bar full of 70 people, there's probably 10 of them paying attention to you. And the rest are out.
Being a bar band is the hardest thing in the world.
It's really awful.
And that is when you get the Freebird crap.
Yeah.
Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah, and so that's really the thing that I really am more into nowadays, doing house concerts and doing.
I love this.
And doing college concerts. Those are like,
it's awesome too.
Yeah,
that's more intimate and it's more of an experience. And when people have an experience like what you're talking about, they get turned on. And I don't mean it that way, but when you go home, you may get extra kisses. I'm just.
It was actually pretty fun. The house concert, there was a lady that had just recently become single again. And we announced it over the microphone and tried to get her a date. So it was.
That's the thing, because isn't that these experiences where I'm a big thing about building community, and that's how, if we can come together on things that unite us, we have a community. When things go wrong, and in disasters like a wildfire or a tornado or a hurricane or whatever, right? If we know somebody that went through that, you're going to be more moved to give or help than if not, right? And I think these more intimate, I think we have to go to these experiences. I know in travel, that's what it's about. It's like having these experiences Yet at the same time, hotels are like self-check-in, just use your phone, and we're losing that. So we're kind of in this really interesting world. But those hotels are actually for what they're supposed to do. Bed and breakfast, if you had self-check-in at a bed and breakfast, that's weird. A
Yeah.
bed and breakfast is homey. Welcome home. Come here. We're going to give you cookies and sherry or wine or tea, whatever and they're going to have knowledge. It's just these different experiences, and it's about what experience we want as we travel or in our community. In a house concert is by far one of the most intimate things you can do. I know a lot of musicians who do it and prefer it because it's more relaxed. And if you don't start at this time and you have a technical thing, you have that little moment to even fix it. Your sound is going to be better most of the time than in a huge hall that people think is great. We were at a meeting recently, and it's supposed to be a meeting hall. And Nancy and I looked at each other and went, "What the heck? This is an event venue, and they had concrete floors."
No.
The whole thing is concrete wall, like regular wall stuff. No, I turned to Nat. I even said Joey would like have a flip, over this because there's no sound. And I'm thought, they have weddings here and the band is supposed to play in here. Are you kidding me? We couldn't hear what the announcers are saying because everything is bouncing everywhere. People's hearing aids are buzzing off. It was insane. But a house concert, you have the sound is better. I don't know if you've experienced that, Joey, but the house concert sound is better a lot of times. But like being in a concrete hall.
Oh, that's terrible. I mean, I've played them.
Platforms or I don't know. You have to do something.
I've played them.
If you're a wedding or an event venue, please don't do concrete floors.
We have a place here in town. We have a place here in town that is an event space, and it's hardwood, glass, and concrete and brick. And it's just the worst acoustics you could possibly imagine. It's just really rough. It doesn't matter how good the sound person is and how good the PA system is. I mean, you just can't make it work in that space. And it's a lot of weird angles, and it's just it's awful. So yeah, I've played my fair share of terrible acoustic spaces. But yeah, I mean, in the house concert, I mean, because it's smaller, I bring my own PA, and I have, these days, they're making really nice PAs. They're not cheap, but they're making really nice PAs that are really small and that have a number of horns that are pointed at different angles so they can cover the whole room. And it works really, really well.
And you have bodies to soak up the sound, and that's
bodies, and it's somebody's house, so you got furniture and books and all kind of things to block up the sound. Yeah.
Sorry, I get incensed with those kind of event venues. What are you doing? You're about someone needs to instruct them on acoustics. I want to just put a plea out there. Anybody who's an event center, a wedding center, go before you open your doors, get someone in to help you with the acoustics. Because if the band sucks and somebody is doing their thing for their wedding and they can't hear the sound and it sounds bad, you are going to get bad reviews. I just want to say that. Isn't wedding music a huge thing?
Yeah. We've been a wedding band. There was a period of time where we were the premier wedding band around, and you get married in some of these historical houses and historical spots. And
that's nice. Those don't have concrete floors. That means At Last has to be on the music list.
That is a good kissy one.
Yeah. Kissing. Yeah, kissing. Okay. Now, before we go, we have to bring up the band Kiss. I know we've detoured everywhere, and you put in the Shoop Shoop song by Cher. It's in his Kiss. You did so many you got some great songs in here. But I wanted to bring up Kiss, the band. Because I know you've had an experience with them. I have a couple of friends who've ended up on stage with Gene Simmons, who, by the way, Gene Simmons does not smoke or drink, right?
No, he does not.
I listened to a podcast where his son told about his like psychedelic experience because he was at a show and somebody brought brownies around, and Gene Simmons has a sweet tooth. And she gave him brownies. He's like, these are the best brownies. And then he had another, and then he was in a limo and he was messed up on brownies. He didn't know that was in there, but that's his only experience because he was raised not to do all that, didn't, and never had an affinity. Well, he's a business person too.
He really is. He really is very clever. When it comes to marketing, he's really very clever. And he treats his fans right. He really does.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, like their music or not, a band that has had the longevity they've had, and had the commercial success, and also, like I say, a band that treats their fans right. I mean, they're okay in my book. And yeah, Gene Simmons, we got a chance to spend a little time with him and do some singing with him and some stuff like that. And my wife has a very Southern accent, and he couldn't remember her name, so he just started calling her Georgia. So everybody thought that was her name. So everybody just started calling my wife Georgia because of her accent. So he was a lot of fun and very gracious to me, and I had a lot of fun with him. And the band's great. I've got a couple signed records from Gene on my wall and all that kind of stuff.
I saw something in your studio with them.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. There's several signed albums on my wall, and there's a couple pictures of us together. Yeah.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh, there's so much. Can I bring In Excess into this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, because I think that they had a couple of good kissing songs, and I know it because I did it. Just saying.
What was your favorite In Excess kissing song?
Mystify.
That's a good one.
Yeah, and it's a song that, I think sometimes Never Tear Us Apart is a good one.
Oh, that's one of my favorites. That's one of my favorites.
But Mystify, it's not a kissing song. That's just a song I really like. And I know people liked like New Sensation and all that. But
sure, it's all great.
I think that Michael, I can't, he's like Chris Cornell of the 80s in a way. You know what I mean? I always kind of put them like Michael Hutchence and Chris Cornell. Again, no one can duplicate them, right?
No, Michael was an absolute killer singer, great entertainer.
He had blues in him too.
He did, and he had a real as a showman, as a front man. He had a lot of sex appeal. I mean,
He's later Jim Morrison, but not the Doors music at all.
Yeah, no.
But had a Jim Morrison quality to his performance, and as a showman, how he delivered his looks and everything. But I think Never Tear Us Apart, that is a kissing wedding song.
That's a great song. Yeah, absolutely.
It is. And, there's just, I think when we look back in our past and we look at music, this is why this show is here. We always diverge into all kinds of other things because that's who we are. And music always plays the history of our lives, history of our region, the history of our community, our culture, our country, of the world. It tells the truth because emotion is truth, no matter whether you want to deem it good or bad. Emotion is real, and music depicts that or connects with it. And it gives you a place to know that you're home, even on the worst days.
Yeah. Absolutely. I could not have said that better myself. That's absolutely right.
Joey, it's good to have you on the show. We'll be talking next month. We're going to be at the end of July. We'll be sweating our butts off no matter where we are, right? We're going to be sweaty, hot and swampy. Oh, maybe we'll do hot and swampy music next month.
That sounds like a dangerous territory.
I like the hot and swampies. You know that. We can get dirty in the blues. Hey, we haven't done a dirty blues show yet.
No, we haven't.
Well, hot, swampy, and dirty sounds good to me.
That's my next album.
I like it. Everyone, keep up with Joey at joeystuckey.com. He's also on Facebook and Instagram, Twitter,
TikTok.
X, and TikTok. He's TikToking. Yeah, he cannot lie. He's a TikToker.
I refuse to call it X. It's always going to be Twitter to me. I'm too old to change.
Come on now. Hey, listen, did you know that there's a 9/7 beat?
A 9/7?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, because no one talks about it, so you might have to change towards it. I'm just messing with you. I cannot mess with Joey on music trivia on that kind of level. Dang. I was just trying to go there, and I'm like, I can't come up with it. I've got this joke in my head, and I can't bring it out, but it's okay.
It's all right. You brought up a lot of other stuff.
All right. Everyone, thank you for joining us. Happy kissing day, but don't kiss someone who doesn't want to be kissed.
That's true.
If you are going to kiss, maybe not eat garlic that morning or day. Unless
have breath mint.
Yeah, I actually am not anti-garlic. Like personally, garlic might actually be my flavor.
Well, whatever makes you happy.
I don't know, but yeah, clean it up. I'm just kidding. Thanks, everyone. Keep up with us at BigBlendRadio.com. Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio. Keep up with our shows at BigBlendRadio.com.